Hey fam. You get a few seconds because it says it's live, but it doesn't look like it is. Okay, I think I'm actually live now. So, happy Friday. Happy December 18th. It's a big date for me personally, and I wanted to talk about it live. I usually commemorate December 18th with a post, and this year I decided to make a video. You may have noticed I've been kind of quiet on video making, even though I love to make videos, and I'm usually all about making videos. But there has been a lot going on. Actually, you can see in my background all the stuff that I'm selling. I'm like purging the house and selling a bunch of stuff, and so that's one of the things that's happening in my reality right now. Good morning. Thank you. And so a couple of you guys might be hopping on wondering, second birthday? What are you talking about? We only get one birthday a year, homegirl. That is typically true, except in my case. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with my birth story, I think it's valuable to share it every single year for new friends, people who don't know, because I think the takeaway is so important. So I was born December 15th of 1987, and I was born with a congenital heart defect called tetralogy of Fallot, or TET for short. It's not incredibly common for you to come across someone that has TET. It's one of those things that when I tell a nurse that I have it or a new doctor that I have it, they just kind of look at me like I walked out of a textbook. Because we are celebrating my scar today. Because it is a textbook condition that people learn about when they go to medical school, but they don't necessarily see it a whole lot. And unfortunately for children who are born with TET, they grow up with a lot of issues. They have a lot of continuing issues. They need a lot of continuing surgeries. It doesn't just affect the heart, it affects breathing, it affects development, it affects hormones. We'll get all into that in a second. And it very often the children don't make it past a certain age. For myself, the age limit they had placed on my life was about 15 years of age. And at the time that I was born, it was a very experimental surgery. So it existed, but they only had like a handful of doctors in the United States that performed that surgery. It was only performed here. It was in extremely high demand. People were flying in from all around the world to receive this surgery. And because what it is your pulmonary valve in your heart, the valve that is responsible for getting the blood that your body receives through the veins, and then moving the blood into the lungs to get oxygenated, and then that blood returns, comes back into the left side of your heart, and then gets pumped through the aorta through the rest of your arteries. This is how the heart functions. Well, that valve in cases of TET is born either deformed, small, gone, or some variant of that. And so what ends up happening is the baby starts to turn blue. So you've probably heard of the term blue baby. This is very, very common with TET children because they are not receiving oxygenation. In my case, when I was born, I had a non-existent valve. It was completely sealed. I started to turn blue pretty quickly. They had to fly in a surgeon, I believe from California, Dr. Perry, and I was the first surgery on the books as soon as he could get there, which was 3 days later. I'm not really sure how I survived 3 days later on oxygen with no valve. There's no physical, logical explanation for how a brand newborn baby would survive that. But I did. And I survived the open heart surgery, which was very extensive, and I lived. And it's crazy because, you know, hearing my mom tell the story of that experience now that I'm a mother is very emotional. I died during surgery and I came back, which is also extremely uncommon for a small child to live through. I was born weighing 8 pounds 5 ounces, and by the end of my surgery I was about 6 something. So the fact that I was born a quote-unquote fat baby actually saved my life, which is kind of like an ongoing irony for me because I've had body image dysmorphia my whole life. And so I feel like I have a debt of gratitude to carrying around extra weight in some way, because it did save my life at a very crucial point. um, in my life. And so I was born December 15th, but I didn't actually get to go home until January of the following year. And so my mom would have to come visit me every single day at the hospital and sit with me. And as a parent, imagining that, it's extremely hard to imagine having my 3-day-old undergo a surgery of that nature and just trusting with a 50-50% mortality rate that it was going to turn out all right. And God bless the man who performed that surgery. His hands were just made of gold, and he did an amazing job. I've never needed a surgery since, which is also extremely miraculous for people with my condition. We typically don't have that experience. We tend to go back as we grow and our heart grows because we need more reparations. The other very interesting thing about the valve they built for me, because again, I didn't have one, was that they didn't use like bionic material. It wasn't plastic, it wasn't metal or anything like that. It was actually cadaver tissue, and it was cerebral cadaver tissue, which is like so crazy, that they put into my heart to build that valve, which I also found so interesting. Needless to say, I was incredibly drugged up, plugged into a million machines. My life expectancy did not look good. For the whole, I think 3 months after I went home, my mom said all I would do was vomit because I had so much toxicity in my body from the painkillers and the anesthesia and everything that I was hooked into that I couldn't actually keep food down. So eating was extremely hard for me and hard for her. And you can imagine the amount of postpartum depression and anxiety that my own mom went through. Hi, darling. Trying to take care of a very, very sick child, and my brother was already 9 years old. So I have an older sibling who's 9 years my senior, and he was already around and needed my mom too. And then there was me, who was born so sick, and the life expectancy they gave me was age 15. I was very limited in any physical activity I could do for the rest of my life. I never did PE in school. I was permanently exempt from doing physical education. Every year, my doctor would send a new note, and I would have to go and give it to my school. So as a result, I didn't grow up being a physically active child, which meant that I gained a lot of weight because I was also eating poorly. We didn't have a lot of money, and my parents were immigrants. They weren't very well versed in nutrition or like anything of that, and we couldn't even afford it at that time, even if they were. So it was just a lot when you're growing up with this condition and you have to go in every 6 months, every year, and they run all these tests on you and they, tell you about your limitation. You are constantly reinforcing in the child of the mind that they are limited and they are limited and they are limited, and they are unable to do certain things. And that was the messaging that I received my entire life growing up on a very consistent basis. On top of that, my mother treated me very fragilely and prevented me from doing a lot of things that other kids my age were doing, like riding a roller coaster or doing anything that could potentially upset me or scare me or increase my heart rate in any way, shape, or form. On top of that, I was told I wouldn't be able to have children because there was no way I was going to be able to sustain it, let alone deliver them. And, exercise and things like that were out of the question. So today I look at my life and I see a woman who has had a child, a vaginal birth, unassisted, really, completely, is expecting her second child and is very much intends to do the same thing again, and whose career is now based around fitness and health and helping other people take control of their health and their fitness, something that I was told would never be available to me because of my life. I'm 33. I'm definitely way over 15, which was the time frame they gave me for my life. And so I think when I'm sharing these messages that I share online about our minds and the power of our minds and the power of exceeding limitation, I'm not speaking from a mental platform. I'm not speaking from a studied platform, although I have studied it extensively because it has drawn great attention to me because of my own life. I'm not speaking from thought. I'm speaking from experience. I was not supposed to have the life that I have right now. There's no way I'm supposed to be where I am right now. No way. I should have had a very different life than I chose to have. A very limited life, a very small life, a very inactive life. And I have perpetually perplexed my physicians and my cardiologists every time I go in. The last couple times they're like, this is crazy. Like, your echocardiogram, you have an athlete's heart. You're so incredibly healthy. If I didn't know you had anything wrong with you because I wasn't studying your chart, I wouldn't know there was something here that I needed to look at. Which is nuts, right? That's something that people with my condition would never hear under ordinary circumstances. And so I want each and every one of you who watches this, is watching this now, or watches a replay to understand that whatever circumstances you are traversing right now, or whatever parameters have been placed upon you because of a health condition or a life situation or something that is in your lap, it is not defining you. It doesn't define you. It doesn't make you who you are. It doesn't define your life. That's your choice. You get to do whatever you want with the reality that you are given. And the fact that you are alive and you have breath and you have functioning capabilities is an amazing opportunity for you to use that to move your life forward. I could have chosen a very, very different life if I had chosen to receive all of the messages of limitation that I had been given and shown evidence for, my whole life. I could have had a very different experience of reality. And I'm extremely glad that being not incredibly naturally rebellious as I am, I rejected that and I chose to forge ahead in a life that was very full of energy and action, and now I get to help people reclaim their wellness in a way that feels accessible and simple to them. And I think my passion for this work stems from coming from a place where I was told I couldn't have that. And being shown these models of well-being that didn't fit me, right? I can't be a heavy lifter at the gym. I can't be a power lifter. No matter how much I want to, I can't do that because of my body. I'm actually not really allowed to lift more than 15 pounds overhead. And so I could have looked at that limitation and told myself, see, you can't ever be fit. You can't ever do what your body wants to do because of your sickness, right? And I didn't choose that. I have gotten into amazing shape at home, in my apartments and now house, not lifting heavy and not killing myself at the gym, and it's received nothing but so much support from my medical community, my doctors and the people who are overseeing me. And I'm so grateful that I chose not to listen, not to sell myself short, not to give up on something that really meant a lot to me. I'm extremely proud of the fact that I have a child that I carried successfully and delivered successfully when I was told that would never be my reality. I'm extremely proud of the fact that I get to now be that beacon of light for other people who, the majority of my customers, by the time they come to me, or my clients, have these stories about themselves that are very defeating, and they've been focusing on the wrong thing the whole time, and they are so lost in obsession and self-destruction that they've gotten so far away from believing in themselves and believing that they can do something that they really want to do. And I am extremely proud of the fact that I get to serve them by holding that space for them now, knowing what I know because of the life that I've lived. And even though our stories might be different and they might not be anywhere near the experiences that I've had, it doesn't matter. Their story and their woes carry as much weight and as much value and deserve to be heard, seen, and grown through. So I wanted to make a video this time feeling very raw. This new moon has brought me into a place of a lot of rawness, a lot of tearing apart my life. It's like flipping cushions and looking for change right now. I think a lot of people can relate to that. I just made a video on Patreon about the new moon where it feels like for those of us who have this really strong Sagittarian influence in our charts, or who have been really deep in this ascension work for a while, it literally feels like you're just tearing up your whole internal home and looking for change. And that can feel really discouraging, and it can feel really disorienting at times. There's my son, of course, wanting to look at himself in the mirror. I don't know what he's doing. So I hope this video touches you and inspires something in you that wasn't there before. And as always, if you need support and if you need someone to be in your corner, you don't know where to start, you feel confused, you feel overwhelmed, that's why I do what I do. And I have an announcement coming for the following year. That should be very, very exciting, and I can't wait to share it, but I'm not going to share it yet. But I love you guys. Thanks for watching, and I hope that this new moon experience at the end of this year finds you feeling more empowered and more in love with yourselves than ever. He said so too. All right, you guys, have an awesome one. Bye.